Yu Menglong's final message, the Astral Realm's secret mission and Qiao Renliang's fate. It began with a whisper. Not a normal whisper, the kind that disappears into silence, but one that lingered, echoing across millions of screens, piercing through the digital noise of an already chaotic world. At exactly 2:17 a.m. a post appeared. No verified account. No official source. No explanation. Just a single line. I didn't leave. I was called. And beneath it, a name that would send shockwaves across the internet. Yu Menglong. Within minutes, the post vanished. But it was already too late. Screenshots spread like wildfire. Fans woke up to chaos. Hashtags exploded. Comment sections turned into war zones of belief and skepticism. Was it a hoax? A hacker? Or something far more disturbing? Because those who looked closer noticed something chilling. The timestamp didn't match any known time zone. At first, people dismissed it. Celebrities often become the center of strange rumors. But this was different. The message carried a tone, calm, deliberate, almost detached from reality. And then someone made a connection. Another name began trending. Qiao Renliang. A figure whose past had already been surrounded by mystery, unanswered questions, and whispers that never truly faded. Fans began digging. Old interviews. Deleted posts. Archived footage. And what they found made everything worse. Years before, Qiao Renliang had said something during a late-night interview that had gone unnoticed at the time. Some doors don't close, they just wait. At the time it sounded poetic. Now it felt like a warning. By midday, a new theory had taken over the internet. What if Yu Menglong didn't die? What if he was recruited? The phrase, Astral Realm, began trending across platforms. Forums lit up with discussions about hidden dimensions, consciousness transfer and elite selections that only a few ever experienced. According to the theory, certain individuals are chosen at pivotal moments in their lives. Their physical existence ends, but their consciousness continues. They are assigned a mission beyond human understanding. And suddenly Yu Menglong's final message made terrifying sense. I didn't leave. I was called. Fans went deeper. And what they discovered felt almost orchestrated. Clue number 1. Recurring symbols. In multiple photos from Yu Menglong's past appearances, a strange symbol appeared. Subtle, almost invisible. A circular pattern intersected by 3 lines. At first glance it looked like a design element. But when overlaid with symbols from ancient texts, it matched descriptions of something known as the Gate of Passage. Coincidence? Maybe. But then came clue number 2. Just weeks before everything happened, Yu Menglong gave what would unknowingly become his final interview. At one point the interviewer asked a simple question. What scares you the most? He paused. Not for a second or two but long enough for the room to feel it. Then he smiled. Not a nervous smile. Not a rehearsed one. A knowing smile. Not knowing what comes next, until you're already there. The clip resurfaced overnight. Millions watched it. And for the first time people noticed something they had missed before. Right after he said those words, the lights flickered. As the astral theory gained traction, attention shifted fully to Qiao Renliang. Because if Yu Menglong had been called, what about him? Old fans began recalling strange details. Sudden changes in behavior. Cryptic social media posts. References to another side and crossing over. One post in particular stood out. If I disappear, don't look for me here. At the time it had been interpreted as emotional distress. Now it sounded like instructions. Then came the discovery that changed everything. A photo. Buried deep in an old fan archive, it showed Yu Menglong and Qiao Renliang at the same private event years ago. Nothing unusual at first glance. But when the image was enhanced, something appeared in the background. A man. Standing still. Watching them. His face partially obscured. But what could be seen was enough to unsettle anyone who looked closely. As the same figure appeared in multiple unrelated photos across different years. Different places. Different events. Same presence. Always watching. The internet gave them a name. The Watchers. According to emerging theories, these were not ordinary people. They didn't interact. They didn't move much. They didn't belong. Their role? To observe. To identify. To select. And once someone was chosen, There was no turning back. Just when things couldn't get more intense, something new surfaced. A hidden layer within Yu Menglong's final message. Tech experts analyzed the screenshot. First it looked normal. But when the brightness and contrast were adjusted, a second line appeared. Faint. Almost invisible. He knows now. 3 words. No context. But they pointed to something, or someone. And fans didn't hesitate to connect the dots. He could only mean one person. Qiao Renliang. By now the narrative had taken a life of its own. Yu Menglong wasn't gone. He had crossed over. And his mission? Still unknown. Some believed he was sent to retrieve something. Others thought he was there to protect. But one theory stood above the rest. That he was sent to finish what Qiao Renliang started. That question changed everything. Because it meant this wasn't random. This wasn't coincidence. This was a chain of events, connected across time, across lives, across realities. And if that was true, then Yu Menglong's message wasn't just a farewell. It was a signal. After the message disappeared, there was no follow-up. No clarification. No official statement. Just silence. But not an empty silence. A heavy one. The kind that feels like something is still happening, just out of sight. At exactly 3:03 a.m. the following night, a user reported seeing a notification. No username. No profile picture. Just a message. The mission has begun. The idea of the Watchers stopped being speculation the moment patterns started aligning across multiple timelines, multiple celebrities and multiple unexplained incidents. This wasn't random anymore. Investigators, both amateur and professional, began mapping appearances of the mysterious figure spotted in archived photos. What they found was chilling. The same figure appeared before major life-changing events. Always positioned in the background. Always observing. Never interacting. And then came the breakthrough. Facial reconstruction analysis, enhanced through AI, revealed something impossible. The face didn't age. Across photos spanning nearly a decade, the figure looked exactly the same. No wrinkles. No variation. No change. That's when the theory escalated. These weren't just observers. They were assigned. Dig deeper and you hit a wall. No records. No names. No official links. But patterns don't lie. Several users uncovered references to a coded term buried in obscure online forums and translated documents. The Astral Directive. Not a group. Not a company. Something bigger. A system. According to compiled findings, the Astral Directive operates outside governments. It doesn't recruit publicly, it selects. Targets are individuals with influence, emotional reach, or symbolic significance. And most disturbing of all, selection happens before the individual is even aware. Now here's where things get serious. As when timelines were reconstructed, Qiao Renliang appears first in the pattern. Not as a victim, but as a trigger point. Archived content shows a drastic shift in his tone months before his final days. Increased references to escape. Or mentions of not belonging here. Repeated phrases like they're closer than you think. One recovered clip, barely circulated before, captured him saying, "If you see them, don't let them see you noticing." At the time it sounded cryptic. Now it sounds like survival advice. Here's the connection most people missed. Yu Menglong's timeline begins to change after Qiao Renliang's final public phase. Not before. After. Which suggests one thing. This wasn't coincidence. This was succession. When one subject exits, another is activated. And Yu Menglong's sudden shift in interviews, expressions and tone lines up almost perfectly with that transition window. Then came the moment everything nearly broke open. A user, identity still unknown, uploaded a file. No explanation. No source. Just a title. The file was taken down within minutes. But not before fragments were saved. And those fragments contained terms that no one could ignore. Subject awareness level, rising. Observer proximity, confirmed. Extraction window, pending. Memory echo risk, high. And then, one final line. If subject resists, initiate passive detachment. No one knows exactly what that means. But everyone agrees on one thing. It doesn't sound voluntary. Remember the hidden message? He knows now. At first people thought it referred to Qiao Renliang. But new interpretations suggest something more disturbing. What if he wasn't Qiao Renliang? What if he was Yu Menglong after crossing over? Meaning, he became aware of the system. He understood the mission. And the message was confirmation. Not for us, but for them. Strip away the fantasy and a darker concept emerges. The astral realm may not be mystical. It may be controlled consciousness relocation. A state where physical identity is no longer primary. Memory is partially retained. Purpose is assigned. Think about that. Not death. Not disappearance. But reassignment. This is where it gets strategic. Why choose public figures? Because they influence millions, shape emotions at scale, create cultural impact. If you were running a system that needed agents capable of affecting large populations, you wouldn't choose random individuals. You'd choose those already connected to the masses. Among all theories, one has gained the most traction. The mission is not in the astral realm. The mission is still connected to us. Some believe selected individuals are tasked with monitoring emotional patterns on Earth, influencing collective behavior through unseen means, preventing events we aren't aware of. And if that's true, then Yu Menglong didn't leave us. He just moved to a position where we can't see him. Now here's the part that made even skeptics pause. When dates of major unexplained celebrity events were compared, a pattern appeared. Intervals. Precise intervals. Almost like a schedule. And guess what? The gap between Qiao Renliang's final phase and Yu Menglong's matches that interval. Exactly. If the pattern holds, then Yu Menglong isn't the last. Another selection would be due. And when people calculated the next projected window, it wasn't years away. It was just before this theory exploded globally. One last piece surfaced. A comment, buried deep in a forum thread, posted seconds before the thread was locked. Read, "You're looking at the wrong ones. The next subject is already active." After the now infamous comment, "You're looking at the wrong ones. The next subject is already active." The internet did what it always does best. It started hunting. But this time the search wasn't chaotic. It was methodical. Users began compiling behavioral patterns from past subjects, comparing them side by side. Sudden emotional detachment during interviews. Pauses before answering simple questions, as if processing something unseen. Subtle changes in eye focus, looking past the camera, not at it. Cryptic statements that only make sense in hindsight. Within hours, several names began circulating. But one stood out. Not because of fame, but because of timing. Every previous case followed a sequence. 1. Observation phase. The subject appears normal, but watchers are present in their environment. 2. Awareness phase. The subject begins dropping subtle, cryptic hints. 3. Detachment phase. Emotional distance increases. Speech becomes reflective, almost philosophical. 4. Extraction phase. The final event. When this pattern was overlaid with current public figures, one timeline matched perfectly. And that's when things got uncomfortable. Because the next subject was still active, still visible, still posting. A short video began trending. At first glance, it was nothing unusual, just a casual interview clip. But then people slowed it down, frame by frame. At exactly 12 seconds in, something happens. The subject is mid-sentence, then suddenly stops. Not like forgetting words, more like listening. No one else in the room reacts. But the subject's expression shifts, subtly, from relaxed to aware. Then they continue speaking. But the tone is different, heavier, measured. And then comes the line that sent chills through viewers. Sometimes, you don't choose the path. It recognizes you. Experts, both real and self-proclaimed, began analyzing the mental state of individuals who might be selected. And what they found was disturbingly consistent. Before activation, energetic, expressive, predictable behavior. During activation, increased introspection, a sudden philosophical depth, moments of unexplained silence. After activation, almost too calm, acceptance of unknown outcomes, a subtle detachment from reality. Sound familiar? Because those exact shifts were documented in both Yu Menglong and Qiao Renliang. Up until now, one assumption kept people grounded. This only happens to celebrities. But part 3 breaks that illusion completely. Because buried within the leaked fragments from the phase transition log was a term no one paid attention to at first. Secondary subjects, unregistered. Unregistered. Meaning, not public figures, not documented, not visible. Which raises a terrifying possibility. What if the system isn't limited to celebrities? What if they were just the visible layer? Think about it. If a system like this existed, would it limit itself to a handful of public figures? Or would it operate quietly, across thousands of individuals, without anyone noticing? Reports, unverified but persistent, started emerging. People claiming they felt observed 4 days before major life changes. Sudden shifts in personality with no clear cause. Dreams that felt more like instructions than imagination. Most of these stories were dismissed. But when compared to the known pattern, they didn't look random anymore. They're consistent. One of the most chilling theories to come out of this phase is called the mirror effect. It suggests that once someone becomes aware of the system, they begin to notice it everywhere. Not because it suddenly appears, but because it was always there. Signs include repeated encounters with the same stranger in different places, objects or symbols appearing in unlikely patterns, conversations that feel scripted, and the most disturbing part? The feeling that something is quietly guiding events around you. Everything changes when you look at Yu Menglong's final message again. I didn't leave. I was called. What if that wasn't just a statement? What if it was a trigger phrase? Something designed to confirm activation, signal transition, or even initiate awareness in others. Because after that message spread, thousands of people reported feeling different, more alert, more uneasy, more aware. One user, before their account vanished, posted something that's now being shared across platforms. If you start noticing patterns, stop looking for them. Why? Because according to the theory, awareness accelerates selection. Let's bring it all together. The pattern exists. The intervals are consistent. The next subject is active, which means one thing. We are already inside the next cycle. Not approaching it, not waiting for it. Inside it. A timestamp. Hidden in the metadata of the deleted phase transition log. It points to a specific date. No explanation. No label. Just a moment in time. And when converted to local time zones, it aligns with a window that hasn't happened yet. The mysterious timestamp extracted from the leaked phase transition log wasn't random. When analysts converted it across time zones, aligned it with known intervals and cross-referenced it with past events, it revealed a window. Not a single moment. A window of activation. And here's the part that shook everyone. That window is approaching fast. Not years away, not months away, but within a time frame that overlaps with current public activity. This means one thing. The next phase isn't coming. It's already unfolding. Now to the question everyone is asking. Who is the next subject? No official confirmation. No verified source. But patterns don't lie. After analyzing behavioral timelines, 3 key identifiers emerged. 1. Sudden philosophical shift. The individual's recent content becomes deeper, more abstract, focused on purpose, destiny, and beyond. 2. Visual disconnection. In interviews or videos they appear present, but not fully engaged. Their gaze drifts. Their reactions lag by milliseconds. 3. Language echoes. Phrases similar to those used by both Yu Menglong and Qiao Renliang begin appearing, almost like shared vocabulary. And here's the twist. These patterns are already visible, right now. A longer version of the trending interview surfaced, unedited, uncut, and it contains something no one expected. At one point the interviewer laughs and says, "You've changed recently." The subject pauses, looks down, then responds, "Maybe I'm just becoming what I was meant to be." Sounds harmless, until you compare it to an old archived quote from Qiao Renliang. You don't become something new, you return to what you were assigned. Different words. Same structure. Same implication. This is where everything gets deeper. The term mission might not be entirely accurate, because new interpretations suggest something else. These individuals aren't being sent somewhere new. They're being reactivated. Meaning, the astral realm isn't a destination. It's a state of operation. And selected individuals may have been connected to it long before their public lives began. Which leads to a disturbing possibility. What if their entire life was just the preparation phase? Remember the symbol? The circular pattern with intersecting lines. The one linked to the so-called gate of passage? It showed up again. But this time, not in old photos. In a recent post from the suspected next subject. Hidden in the background. Barely visible. But unmistakable. And within minutes of being noticed, the post was edited. The symbol removed. Too late. Because screenshots had already spread. And this time even skeptics started paying attention. Real-time tracking of the suspected subject revealed something chilling. Reduced social media activity. A more reflective, ambiguous captions. Increased references to timing, alignment, and readiness. And then came the line that changed everything. When the moment comes, I won't resist. If this is real even partially, then we're not just observing a pattern. We're watching it happen. Life. Which raises a dangerous question. Should we be watching at all? Because if the theory is true, observation might not be passive. It might be part of the process. One emerging concept is called the feedback loop. It suggests that the more attention a subject receives during activation, the faster the process completes. Meaning, viral attention might not expose the system. It might actually fuel it. Let's revisit it one last time. I didn't leave. I was called. After everything uncovered so far, a new interpretation emerges. Didn't leave, consciousness remains connected. Was called, activation initiated externally. But here's the part most people missed. It's written in past tense. Which implies, by the time we saw the message, the process was already complete. Now we get to the most critical question. This is a cycle. Can it be stopped? There are two dominant theories. Theory 1. Interruption. If a subject becomes fully aware before the final phase, they might resist. But no documented case confirms this. Theory 2. Inevitability. Once the process begins, it cannot be reversed. Only completed. And based on all known patterns, this theory holds stronger. Just hours ago, a new detail surfaced. A timestamp embedded in a recent post from the suspected subject. It matches the extracted activation window. Exactly. Everything we've uncovered, patterns, symbols, behavioral shifts, has been building toward one moment. The extraction phase. But what is it really? Forget the dramatic assumptions. The most consistent interpretation from all collected data points suggests something far more unsettling. Extraction is silent. No public event. No dramatic disappearance. No visible transition. Instead, the subject simply stops being the same person. Their presence fades even if their body remains. Their identity becomes distant. It's not about leaving the world. It's about becoming unreachable within it. Every previous subject followed one final sequence before complete transition. 1. Final acceptance. A statement or action indicating they've stopped resisting. 2. Sudden silence. A sharp drop in communication. No explanation. 3. Post-event echo. A message, post, or signal that appears briefly, then disappears. Sound familiar? Because that's exactly what happened with Yu Menglong. And based on current observations, it's happening again. At the time of writing this, there has been no confirmation, no official announcement, no clear event. But that's the point. If the pattern is accurate, you wouldn't see it happen. You would only notice it after it's already done. Recent observations show complete inactivity, scheduled appearances quietly cancelled, no public explanation, and the most telling sign, no reaction from their inner circle, as if nothing unusual happened, or worse, as if this was expected. Just before the silence, one final post appeared. Simple, almost easy to ignore. It's not the end. It's the return. Minutes later. Gone. But not before being captured, shared, and analyzed. Does that line connects everything. After everything, one conclusion stands above all theories. The astral realm may not be a place. It may be a function, a system, A layer of reality that operates parallel to ours. Unseen but active. And those who are called don't disappear. They switch roles. Let's answer the question that started it all. What was his mission? The most compelling theory now suggests. Yu Menglong wasn't sent to leave humanity behind. He was sent to observe it from the other side. To monitor emotional currents. Track large-scale human behavior. Influence outcomes in ways we can't detect. And if that's true, then his message wasn't just personal. It was operational. For years his story felt incomplete. Unanswered. But through this lens it takes on a different meaning. What if his end was actually the beginning of the system's visible pattern? Not a tragedy in isolation, but the first public ripple of something much larger. After connecting every piece, one realization becomes impossible to ignore. This system doesn't need to hide. Because even when it's visible, it's dismissed. Called coincidence. Called imagination. Called fiction. And that's what makes it effective. Let's return one last time to the line that started everything. I didn't leave. I was called. At first it sounded like a statement. Then a clue. Now, feels like something else entirely. A signal. Not to fans. Not to the public. Possibly. To others who might be next. Among all theories, one stands out as the most unsettling. The message wasn't just explaining what happened. It was preparing others for what will. What if you don't need to be famous? What if you don't need to be chosen in any obvious way? What if the only requirement is something far simpler? Awareness. Because if the system operates on recognition, then reading this, understanding it, thinking about it, might not be neutral. Before everything went dark, one final fragment surfaced. No source. No confirmation. Just a line. Once you see the pattern, you're already part of it.